Today, we're diving into some of history's biggest puzzles. We're talking about discoveries so strange, so out of place, it feels like someone tried to wipe them from the history books. So, let me ask you something. Remember history class? You know, that nice, clean timeline they taught us? But what if that story is missing a few pages? Or maybe entire chapters?
And what if that wasn't an accident? What if some of the most incredible, world-changing discoveries were deliberately tucked away, hidden from all of us?
Well, that's exactly what we're digging into today. We're looking at the artifacts, the stories that just don't fit, the things that make you go, yep, these are the discoveries they really didn't want you to see.
All right, first up, let's start with an object so bizarre, so out of its time, that people have nicknamed it the Impossible Ancient Battery.
Okay, so picture this. It's 1936, near Baghdad. Archaeologists dig up this little clay pot. Nothing special, right? But inside, there's a copper cylinder and an iron rod. Now, when scientists looked at this setup, they thought, wait a minute, this looks exactly like a simple battery. Sure, the official story is that maybe it was for holding scrolls, but the big question won't go away. Could this thing actually generate electricity? And here's where it gets really wild. This little jar is from around 250 BCE. The modern battery, that wasn't invented until 1800. That's a 2,000-year gap in technology. Just think about that for a second. If it was a battery, what on earth were they using electricity for 2 millennia ago? I mean, if this thing is what it looks like, it totally changes what we think we know about ancient technology. So you have to ask yourself, why isn't this in every single history textbook?
Okay, so the battery is weird, right? But believe me, this next one is on a whole different planet of weird. We're talking about what might just be history's very first computer.
This is the Antikythera Mechanism. It was dragged up from an ancient shipwreck back in 1901. For years, it was just this corroded chunk of bronze that nobody could figure out. But then we got modern X-ray technology, and what they found inside was just mind-blowing. An incredibly intricate system of gears, all fitting together perfectly.
This thing was made around 100 BCE, and get this, it could track the stars and even predict solar eclipses. But here's the real kicker. Technology this complex doesn't show up again in human history for over 1,000 years. Not until the huge fancy clocks of the Renaissance.
It's like a ghost in the machine of history, a complete dead end. So where did the ancient Greeks get this know-how? And maybe the bigger question is, why did it just disappear off the face of the earth?
So, we've talked about impossible tech. Now let's switch gears to impossible biology. Yeah, we're going there. We're talking about giants and the really weird story of skeletons that seem to have just vanished. And look, this isn't just about old fairy tales. Back in the 1800s and early 1900s, newspapers all across America were buzzing with these stories. Reports of giant human skeletons being dug up from ancient burial mounds. But this is where the story takes a turn. Almost every single time, the bones, well, they disappeared. They were supposedly sent off to museums or institutes for study, and then, poof, gone. Now, of course, skeptics say, come on, it was just fake news, yellow journalism. And sure, some of it probably was. But all of it? Or was something real found and then hidden? This whole idea of a hidden history, of things being covered up, leads us right to our next stop. Ruins. Ruins that just don't make sense. We're talking about possible lost super-civilizations. Check out Pumapunku in Bolivia, for example. The stonework there is just staggering. We're talking about huge blocks of stone cut with perfect, laser-like precision. They have these complex, interlocking shapes like giant Lego bricks. Modern engineers look at this stuff and say, to do this today, we'd need diamond-tipped saws and computer-guided lasers. So how did they do it thousands of years ago? Are we looking at the leftovers of some forgotten, super-advanced civilization? I mean, who built this, and what kind of crazy lost technology were they using?
So we've got impossible gadgets, we've got impossible buildings. But what if hiding history isn't just something that happened way back when? What if it's happening right now? Let's talk about secret archives.
You know, all around the globe, there are places with massive collections of historical stuff that you and I will never, ever get to see. I'm talking about places like the Vatican's infamous secret archives or classified government files on archaeological digs, even priceless things hidden away in private collections.
The official line is always, oh, we're just preserving it for safety.
And okay, fine, I get that, but when you have so much of our human story locked away, you can't help but wonder, is this really about keeping things safe, or is it about controlling what we know about our own past?
All right, this is where it all comes together. We've seen tech that's way ahead of its time, evidence that just up and disappears. Let's connect the dots.
So what's really going on here? Look, maybe there's a perfectly boring explanation for everything. Maybe the Baghdad Battery really was just a fancy jar. Maybe the Antikythera Mechanism was a 1 in a billion stroke of genius that was never repeated. You know, are these things just misunderstood? Or do you see a pattern here? Artifacts that don't belong. Knowledge that vanishes for 1,000 years. Evidence that gets lost. Does it all point to something else? That maybe, just maybe, these things are being hidden on purpose?
You know that old saying, history is written by the victors? Well, it's true. And what that really means is that whoever gets to write the story of our past gets to control the story of our present.
So, I'm just going to leave you with this one last thought. When you see all these weird gaps in the timeline, all these impossible artifacts, you've got to wonder, what if the biggest, most important truths about where we come from are the ones they never wanted us to find in the first place?